Hello, everyone. I would like to take some time to thank all my family members and friends for their prayers and support for last few months. Some of you might be aware that I had to go through some health issues last few months and I am recovering slowly. So thank you for your support and prayers. I wanted to take some time and share the experience that I went through. Hopefully, this information will be useful to your family or friends, and they could take advantage and do preemptive measures to avoid any kind of challenges with their heart conditions. I was diagnosed with multiple blocks, which resulted in a bypass and a stent procedure. I did not have any symptoms. I turned 50 a few years back and also have family history and also diabetic. So that prompted me to go through and check my calcium score, calcium coronary score. It's $50 or $75, available at most of the hospitals. It's out of pocket, so you can call and do the scan. That gives you some idea as how much blocks calcium blocks you might have. My score was not high. Mine was 150. It's medium risk. It's probably normal for somebody who is diabetic, but I still wanted to go through and check the overall health condition. So I requested my primary care to do a stress test. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. So the calcium score, even though wasn't high, I still wanted to go through stress test. I was able to successfully complete my stress test. I did not have any pain or anything like that while I ran on treadmill. The stress test, some of you might be aware, but for others, they hook you up and measure your ECG or EKG while you're running on a treadmill. So they start slow and then they progress, and your heart rate has to reach around 150. And there are two types: one just a stress test, the other one they will inject something after your test and take pictures before and after of your heart and arteries. So that is another one as well. So depending on where you are, you might do a regular stress test or one with imaging as well. So I completed it successfully. I didn't have any problems, but the results when the doctor looked at it were abnormal. And so he had suggested that you should go to the next step and see if there's any blocks or not. Then CT scan, which is relatively less invasive. I did that, and that exposed that there are blocks, but it doesn't tell you exactly where the blocks are or what percentage of blocks you have. So the gold standard is to do an angiogram. Angiogram is an invasive procedure. They inject a dye through your artery and they take pictures and it shows you exactly where the block is, and then percentage doctors take a guess is 50%, 60% of certain arteries are blocked. So the pictures, if it's clean, it will be a dark black. I was able to see the pictures, and wherever you see white spots, the dye is not there. That kind of indicates you that there are blocks. To our surprise, I was diagnosed with multiple blocks. I was hoping they will put a stent for me and I'll be out of the hospital. But since there were multiple blocks, the doctor had suggested I have to go through bypass. Bypass is very invasive procedure. Risks are there, even though it's being done daily in multiple hospitals. It's still a significant procedure to go through. I did not have any symptoms, but so it was definitely shocking for us to discover multiple blocks, both in my right arteries and also on my left arteries. Given I did not have symptoms, I had some time to explore whether I really need to go to bypass. If at all, if it's a bypass, what are my options available, right? So I did consult with multiple cardiologists here in US and also my family back in India, and everybody, based on the results, bypass was the option that was recommended by multiple people, multiple doctors actually. And with bypass, open heart surgery is the gold standard, which they open your heart and you go through and fix the blocked artery, right? It's pretty invasive and the recovery is much longer. So I was a bit hesitant and wanted to find out if there are other options available. Luckily, looking around and with input from our family, we came to know that there is a minimally invasive bypass option. Not a lot of hospitals offer this, and not a lot of surgeons do that as well. Being in Chicago suburbs, I was lucky enough. University of Chicago medicine or a medical hospital is one of the well-known hospital who does this surgery for last 10 plus years. But the challenge is getting an appointment and going to the doctor. So we were able to get help from known family, friends, with contacts. So we were able to get an appointment earlier than we were hoping for, and has to go through the consultation. I will share the doctor name. Doctor name is Dr. Balki, and I will have his number and link in the description. After consultation, we found out I am a candidate for minimally invasive option, which is also known as TECAB, totally endoscopic coronary artery bypass, right? So where they don't really open your heart, they use endoscopic camera and then robotic arms, and have like a half inch to maybe a 1 inch incision on my left side of the chest here, and they go through that and fix the left arteries. So the left artery is accessible for the minimally invasive option, but the blocks on the right side were not accessible. So I had to go for something called hybrid TCAP, which is basically the left arteries are done through bypass, and then the right side I had to go through a cardiologist and get stent placed in there. So with the help from the doctors, Dr. Balki was very open, and we were able to get another cardiologist who was able to look at my situation and agree to do a stent procedure. If I had time and the doctors at the University of Chicago had openings, I could have done on the same day, but given it was different doctors and different hospitals, I initially had to get my bypass done, and after a few weeks, I had my stent procedure done at a different hospital. In terms of recovery, is where you get the biggest benefit. So I'm going to quickly show the screen or picture here, right? So this picture is from University of Chicago's website, and here you can see on the left side, again, the information I have is based on what I've read and what has been told, right? I'm no way an expert or anything like that. But for quite a lot of people, even the folks who are in the medical field, when I got admitted for my stent procedure, were not aware that there is this minimally invasive option, and one could actually go through that. The default option most of the doctors recommend is the traditional open heart surgery. That's what was recommended by my initial cardiologist and surgeons. And since I had time, I had an opportunity to explore and find out what other options were available, right? So the left side is the traditional bypass, where they have to cut open your ribs, right? They use kind of a axe or some machine, right? They cut open it, and they have something to keep your ribs open. You can see the retractor, and then obviously at that point, the surgeon has access to the arteries, and they could do what they want. In my case, even though the picture, everything it shows on the right side, but it's actually on my left side. So I have like 5 small incisions on the left side. They all pretty much healed. So they have the camera, robotic arms, and the doctor is actually out a little bit outside from the actual surgery room. And there is a video I will share as well. He's sitting on a console that gives them 10x 3D picture of my heart from the camera, and then he operates as if he's doing a joystick kind of thing. So it looks pretty cool, but the technology helped me recover much quicker. So you can see here the excuse me 1 minute. In hospital 1 to 3 days. So my surgery was on Monday. It was a long surgery because it's minimally invasive. It takes longer time for the surgery to go through. Monday evening around 7 or 8, I think I was done from surgery. It was like 7 hours long surgery. And then the pain, I would say the main pain when I came out from the anesthesia. And then I had to go through my stent procedure for my right side. And now I'm yet to start my cardiac rehab. That's where I am initially. I'm hoping in few weeks I will be starting my cardiac rehab. So in terms of number of days in hospital and number of weeks or months from a recovery perspective, there's a significant difference between the open heart and the minimally invasive option. And then the other differences which we came to know while discussing the options were beating heart versus, actually I have twice listed here, beating heart versus traditionally stopped heart bypass, right? The doctors initially, the one that I consulted was going to do a traditional bypass where they would stop the heart, open it, actually open it and then stop the heart and go through the procedure. Obviously, it has its own risk. So each time they do a bypass, like for me, there was a triple bypass, right? So they have to, they would stop it like 3 times, I believe. So it had its own risk. But there are doctors who would do a beating heart as well. Both for the minimally invasive option, my heart was not stopped, was still beating while the surgery is happening. Even for the open heart surgery, the doctors in the University of Chicago does a beating heart as well. For some reason, if I'm not a candidate for minimally invasive option, they would have gone for a traditional open heart surgery. Even with the open heart surgery, my heart would still be beating as compared to stopping the heart. The other differences that we came to know is for the bypass, for folks that who do not know what bypass is, right? It's traditional to like the bypass we are used to in India. You have a road that goes through your town, and if you want to avoid the traffic, you take the bypass, which is less traffic, right? That's exactly what they do. They take a graft, which is basically a vein or artery, and then they bypass the blocked um, artery so the blood can start flowing more freely through the other option that got added. And to be able to bypass, you can either take an artery, which is what carries your blood to the heart, or you can take veins or venous bypass, right? The arteries have a longer lifetime, since it's the same that's being used for the other traffic for your blood. It has close to 90% lifetime, similar to the original arteries, and has a less risk of blocking again. Obviously, you still need to maintain your diet and other stuff, but the and they would take you typically from your heart. They call lima, like they took artery from my chest here for my bypass. All the triple bypass that was done for me was all the artery grafts. But certain doctors, they might mix and match or may just do venous, which is basically they would take vein from your leg and then use that. And this has risk of getting blocked again, and then the lifespan is what typically is 10 years. So those were some of the differences or changes. So I am glad I was able to look at the options and also had time in my hand, because it was not an urgent surgery I had to go through. So explore option, find the doctors. So the University of Chicago is the only one that I'm aware in the Midwest region who does the minimally invasive option. The Cleveland Clinic, Heart Clinic, they were also listed as one they would do. But when I consulted them, it was a remote consultation. I didn't go in person. Since my right side arteries are not accessible, they said they could not do it. And they were not willing to have a dialogue to see if I could go for the hybrid option. But the doctors in the University of Chicago were very open, and they encourage the hybrid option as well, so that the patient doesn't have to unnecessarily go through the traditional open heart surgery, which has a longer recovery time and other risks associated with that. So the Dr. Balki worked with our cardiologist, who is Dr. Avula, based in Christ Hospital, who did my stent. So I had to go through triple bypass and actually triple stent for my right side. Hopefully, I can recover and then focus on my health. Main information I do want to share is, if you know friends or family who has high risk, either because of family history or diabetic, or if you're 50 years old, take action and do coronary scan, or I would say recommend stress test. That is more telling than the coronary scan, because in my case, it was medium risk, was not going to tell me anything, right? But still, I went through my stress test, which kind of indicated whether I needed to take further action or not. So you can talk to your primary care, or if you're visiting India, then you can do the stress test in India as well. If your primary care says you may not need it, again, based on the insurance, sometimes the patient has to be their own advocate, right? You can tell I have a family history and other stuff, and your request for prescription for stress test, because the insurance will look at why you are prescribed. So you need to be your own advocate, and then you can say that I have doubts and other stuff, so that insurance will cover for it. And then India is another option where you can cheaply do your stress test when you visit India as well. So hopefully the information has been helpful. I do have my email listed. You can message me if you have any questions or additional information need about the doctors. And the information about the doctors will also be in the description as well. So Dr. Balki, who's based in University of Chicago, is the surgeon. There's also another doctor who is based in University of Chicago who does it as well. Again, not just the bypass, they also do other kinds of heart related through minimally invasive option. So if you know someone, I believe in India as well, they've started doing it, but I don't know which hospital does it in India. Maybe Apollo in Chennai, and then maybe in Delhi they do it as well. So you can at least explore and not go through traditional bypass if there's an opportunity for you to go through the minimally invasive option. Again, they will consult and let you know whether you're a candidate or not. Not everybody will be eligible. I did have another friend that had some issue, not with the arteries, but with the valve, I believe. And he went and consulted University of Chicago doctor, and they said they could not do it. So he had to go through the traditional bypass. So at least you know if you're a candidate or not. And based on that, you can make a decision which one is better for you. And do let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully, this has been useful. And thank you for your support and prayers. And take preventive action, especially if you are over 50 and you have a high risk. As I mentioned, I did not have any symptoms, and life was normal. And within a week or so, everything changed dramatically. So, thanks everyone. Thanks for your support.